still had connections in a hard place. Time has passed and I ain't seen a dollar yet. I buy her food and pay her rent, but that's about to stop, oh you bet, 'cause I've got no patience left. You said you loved me till the day you die. You said you'd buy me flowers, diamonds and furs. Time has passed and I ain't seen a dollar yet. I'm never for you to see. I changed the locks and set you free, but you sure ain't nothing more. Should we read it? Should we read it? Should we read it? Should we should have put a we should have really out. Da dee 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 ya do do. Should ya ba wa ba win dee dip dee doo win. We do do. La do ba ba da da do we out ba we did. Shawa we out. Baby out we shawa ba win dee. Wa da 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 dee. We out. We shift it up. Should we did we it's your turn, Johnny. Slide Easy Rider, see what you have done. You made me love you, now your gal has come. I'm gonna buy me a shotgun, just as long as I am tall. I'll buy me a shotgun, long as I am tall. Oh, I'm gonna shoot that guy, yeah. Catch me that cannonball. You said you loved me till the day you died. You said you bought me flowers, diamonds and furs. Every time you come on, I would drawn the world. But here's a thing for you to see. I changed the locks and set you free, but you got no patience left. You said you get yourself a real good job. You said you had connections in a high place. Time has passed and I ain't seen a dollar yet. But here's the thing for you to see. I changed the locks and set you free, cause you sure ain't nothing but a
Roberta, how are you? I don't hear you.
I'm pretty good, all things considered. Can't
All
complain.
things considered. Yeah, Roberta's joining us from her home in Brooklyn, New York, but she is originally from Italy, which leads to my first question. How did jazz become such an important part of your life? When did that happen, Roberta?
It happened because it was already an important part in the life of my parents. They actually met at a jazz concert when they were still kids. And my father loved jazz so much. He was a tenor saxophone player in his youth. His idols were Don Byas, Coleman Hawkins, and Ben Webster, especially Don Byas. He had almost like a shrine to Don Byas. He loved Don Byas. And of course, he had a good collection of vinyls. He and his childhood friend, they would go out on trips in the weekends and look for the auctions. At the time, there were auctions of rare jazz records. And he played in bands when he was young, but then he stopped because it was very difficult to make a living and support a family. But he kept alive this passion for jazz. And so when I came along in this world, in my household, jazz was the music that was listened to. And by jazz, I mean the music of the masters. So we used to listen to a lot of Duke Ellington, Count Basie, Louis Armstrong, and of course, Ella Fitzgerald, Don Byas, Lucky Thompson, Ben Webster, Charlie Parker, you name it. So a lot of things. So that's how I became, I would say, acquainted from the beginning without even knowing that it was jazz when I was in my first years of life. That's what I heard.
Well, that's an incredible foundation when you're talking about the masters. But when you came to the United States, you were lucky enough to get to meet and work with these masters. So let's talk about that for a minute. Yeah. 3 masters in particular I want to mention: Benny Carter, James Moody, and Jimmy Heath.
Yeah.
So how did you meet Benny, and what was getting to know Benny musically like?
Okay, so as you said, I moved to the U.S. in 1998, and I didn't know anybody. And I have to make a premise. The reason why I moved to the U.S., the number one reason was because I really wanted to experience what it is a human contact with these masters, with these amazing greats that I had heard on record or live, but somehow at a distance. Or maybe, you know, in the dressing room, you would say, hey, you know, your concert was fantastic, but you didn't really have time to spend a lot of time asking them questions and getting a human exchange. So I was looking for that. And of course, I wanted to be in the place in order to understand the culture. And so that was my main objective. And I have to say, I would have done it much earlier if I could have, but you know, as soon as I could, I did. And I left with no money, I didn't know anybody. All I had was I won a scholarship with the New England Conservatory. And at the very same time, maybe it was 10 days after I first landed in the US, I got into the semifinals for the Thelonious Monk competition that were held in DC. And that's when I first met the great Jimmy Heath. We were talking about the masters. And Jimmy was present at the competition because he was part of the board of the board of direction of the Thelonious Monk Institute. And I remember after the semifinals, at this party, at the after party, I got to talk to him and I got to tell him how much his music meant to me, how much the voice of his saxophone. My father played tenor, so I have a really fondness, almost emotional fondness for the voice of the saxophone. And among the many voices of the saxophone, they're all great, but Jimmy Heath represented already then to me all the warmth, the beauty and the richness of the span of the melody. So I was a big fan. And when I finally got to meet him, he was so nice to me and had a lot of suggestions and that he gave me musically. But most of all, he asked me, what are your favorite composers or the music that you've been working on when you were in Italy? And I said, I've been working a lot on the music of Kenny Durham. And this music is very important to me. It just held a special place in my heart and in my growth. You know, I've been transcribing a lot of KD's solos and even wrote lyrics to some of Kenny Durham's compositions. I was very attracted by the compositional aspect of the music of Kenny Durham. And Jimmy Heath said, well, no, Kenny Durham was a very close friend of mine. And then we started talking about the importance of Kenny Durham, the composer also, from the compositional aspect. And that was already, there and then, was already one of my main dreams had come true, to be able to spend some time with this master, speaking about the music and absorbing, even just in words, absorbing the spirit of the music and trying to really understand what it is and just love it with all my heart. So that was the first time when I met Jimmy Heath. And incidentally, not long after that competition took place, I'm talking about, if I'm not wrong, probably November or December 1998. I hope I'm right with the date, but you know, I have a poster of that. I just can't see the date from this far on the other wall. But you know, I got invited by Master Heath to take part to a performance of the music of Kenny Durham at the Schomburg Center for Research in Black Culture up in Harlem. And it was like mind-boggling because, you know, the great trumpeter Virgil Jones was there, the great Charles Davis. These were all names that I had seen printed on the covers of these vinyls that I was devouring, or the CDs. They already had CDs at the time, but anyway, vinyls in my father's collection. So, and that was really my first performance on the American soil. And I sang a couple of songs of Kenny Durham that I had written lyrics for and worked on. Yes, yeah. Thank you for putting that. So I was talking about the compositional aspect, so important. And the great Jimmy Heath, to me and to everybody else, but already when I was in Italy, I was in love with the melodies that Jimmy Heath wrote. And of course, I was familiar with the great standards like Gingerbread Boy, but I was also familiar already with some of his amazing ballads that I knew from the records, like The Voice of the Saxophone. That's an incredible tune. And I was fascinated and like inspired by the richness of the melodic span of his compositions. That is something that, for example, we love in a different way and with a different trait of personality in the music, for example, of Billy Strayhorn, some of the music of Charlie Mingus. They have this enormous melodic breath in a melody. And that's what the music of Jimmy Heath, that's what I heard that fascinated me so much in these great ballads. So since that day at the competition, when I met Master Heath, I was blessed and honored by his friendship. And years after, I always had this project in the back of my mind. I want to record an album of compositions of Jimmy Heath with lyrics. And so this happened a few years ago. We got in the studio with Master Heath, Master 2D Heath, and Jeb Patton, and David Wong, and a lot of other guests. And we recorded the album, which cover you put on the screen, called Connecting Spirits. It's an album that's very dear to my heart. Jay also wrote lyrics. He was also an amazing lyricist. And he wrote lyrics to more than half of the songs on this collection. And yeah, it's an album that's very, very, very dear to me. And so, I worked also a lot with the Dizzy Gillespie All-Stars Big Band with my other mentor. He was like a father to me. Him and Linda Moody were my American parents. Yeah. And I worked a lot with Moody too. We worked together in the big band, in the Dizzy Gillespie All-Stars Big Band. John Lee was the artistic director and bass player. And Jimmy Heath was in that band too. So you see, there's a kind of a familiarity. It's like a circle of really almost like ties from the heart that bonds you through the music to the people. And I have to say, this is why I was so fascinated by those records that I listened to since I was 2. I didn't know anything about the technicalities of music. When I was like 2 years old and I would listen to Ella Fitzgerald sings the Duke Ellington songbook, I didn't know that I was listening to jazz. I just was listening to music, but I still remember the overwhelming feeling of warmth, of this almost circle. And I could sense also that this music is about connection, is about something way deeper, that something that at 2 years old I wasn't able to really understand. But it was a strong human connection that propelled this music. And many years after, when I was more in the so-called age of reasoning and I studied history, I realized that there is a whole history, and that's the history of the people who gave birth to this music, so which were the descendants of the people brought to the American continent in slavery. And so part of what that complex cauldron of emotion I was perceiving by listening, I was in a way witnessing with my ears, came also from that. And many years later, when I came in contact with these masters and I heard their stories, and they told me their parable in life and what they went through, then kind of it came to a little bit more of a circle to me. But my first really impact was the realization that there is a factor that's profoundly human and deep, and in this music. And that's what I wanted really that's what I was in search of. I was in search of meaning, in search of humanity. And that's what I found here by getting in contact with these masters. Benny Carter, I met him almost a very short time after I moved. I had made a little demo tape back when I was in Italy, and that was my admission tape for the competition, the monk competition. And that tape, I had started also working, and I met at the competition a wonderful music publisher by the name of Don Sickler, and I had given him this tape. And Don had a performance and rehearsal space in New York where a lot of these greats would go to rehearse. And a lot of great masters were friends with Don Sickler, who's also an excellent trumpet player. And so people like, Cedar Walton, Master Cedar Walton, Master Ron Carter, and a lot of people would know Don, and Don would play my tape for them. So kind of, a lot of people kind of started hearing this little Italian girl who was doing these strange things and had come to these shores. But one of the persons who heard this demo tape was Larry Clodier, who was the manager of Carmen McRae and had also managed Sarah Vaughan, was a close friend of Dizzy Gillespie. And he was he kind of took an interest in the tape. And I'd never met him, I didn't know him, but he was a good friend also of Benny Carter. So he sent this tape. This tape went like here, there. It's weird, but this little tape that I made. But he sent this tape to Benny Carter and asked Benny Carter, what do you think? And Benny said, well, I think that you should go find this young lady and you both should come and see me in my home in Los Angeles, because we gotta talk. And that was the year, beginning of, probably it was mid-1999, because I had come to the States at the end of 98. So it was just a few months after. So I found myself on a plane bound to Los Angeles. And we went to Skyline Drive, I think it was the name of the home, the road in Studio City where Benny's house was. And so I was introduced to Benny Carter, his amazing wife, Hilma Carter, who is still very active and very, he's still with us. And she's a wonderful, wonderful lady. And so that's how it started, this mentorship and friendship that Benny honored me with. I don't know what to say. That was the greatest gift possible. Benny Carter was, to me, and to all those who met him, really. He was a genius as a musician, a genius as a composer, a genius as everything, as a player. But he was also one of the most exceptionally wonderful human beings. And I know people say that a lot about artists, but I don't know. I don't have words to really describe who and what kind of man, capital M. You know, to me, that's the measure of a man. To me, is Benny Carter. The dignity, the kindness, the elegance, the genius, the creativity, the intelligence, the openness. I don't have enough words. And for me, really, that's the measure of a man, of what it means to be a human. And he was so nice to me. He taught me a lot of things, how to choose a repertoire. I remember he used to sit down at the piano and play, and I would sing. Yeah, I know, right? I sang again Benny Carter accompanied. It's mind-boggling. And he organized for me my first gig in Los Angeles. I just can't even say how grateful I am. It still feels like a dream, you know.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, I had the honor of knowing, pardon me, Benny and James Moody and Jimmy Heath. They were really remarkable people. Aside from the fact of being incredible musicians, master musicians, they had an aspect that you talked about of humanity, the way that they went through this life, the way that they dealt with people. And Jimmy and James Moody in particular, fantastic sense of humor. Really, really funny, really, really great. I want to shout out to our listeners, our viewers, I should say. We've got people from Seattle, Dubai, Chile, let's see, Belgium, San Antonio, Texas, my girlfriend in Tucson, Arizona, Sherry, Athens, Greece. And a couple of questions here. Joyce, who's one of our viewers in Seattle, says that you're also a great teacher. She watched a master class you did recently. Could you talk to us a little about your teaching and how they can access that, Roberta?
Mm-hmm. Okay, a couple of words about my teaching. I consider myself a messenger, so to speak. I consider myself a vessel because I had this unique, I would say, unique opportunity to have experienced so much help, really, to have received so much, I want to say knowledge, but so much advice from these greats. I want to speak a second about James Moody, for example. It's a very important part of what I transmit to other people. I said it before that James Moody and Linda were my American parents, and I have eternal gratitude for wonderful people. Again, the measure of humanity for me, the measure of a man, James Moody, the measure of love, James Moody, Linda Moody, the measure of family, that's to me remains the gold standard. And Moody, he was just the most generous person in the world. He taught me so very much. And Moody, just like me, I am not formally educated because I did not have access to a really complete formal education. So I was grabbing here and there and learning from trial and error and falling and then getting up. And I always felt a little bit kind of like, oh, I wish I had that, that academic education. And later on, when I met Moody, I realized that maybe that also was the reason why these greats took me under their wing, because they saw that I was so much eager for knowledge that I didn't really have access to. So I was struggling to get it everywhere, and I was really avid for, I wanted to know. And Moody taught me, so much I can't even start saying. And that's part of the things that I transmit to other people. All the days spent in Moody's home with him sitting at the piano and telling me, see, we could do this, you could do that, try this, try that. It was a constant encouragement, a constant lesson. Moody was a natural teacher, both on stage and off stage. Off stage was on how to behave, how to relate to the world, and on stage was even, how to stand on stage, what to think, how to think of yourself as a communicator. And so in my teaching, what I do, I try to transmit to other people what was transmitted to me by these greats. And James Moody gave me so much. Without Moody, no me. Without him, no me. And he's not in this realm of reality now. He's in another place, but as far as I'm concerned, he still is. He still is, and maybe always was. Because every time I hear or I see an act of kindness, every time I feel moved by something, I feel Moody. That was Moody. And Moody had a difficult life. He told me so much about the disappointment after he came back from World War II, and he came back to a segregated world. It's the sufferings. It's not something that I can understand, but he communicated it to me because it was important as part of his formation. So, when you become almost family with someone, you get to know what moves them and what made them who they are. So, so it's really goes deep. And in my teaching, I just merely, try to communicate to the people the wonder, the joy, and the happiness, of being able, of having the opportunity that we have to learn. That's an incredible opportunity that sometimes we take for granted. In the age of YouTube, for example, a lot of maybe the younger guys who have this smorgasbord of versions of music everywhere on the net. I just try to transmit to them how lucky we are to be able to access all this beauty and to be influenced by it. Yeah, to have the opportunities to try to strive for knowing something about it. Whatever we can know. Maybe we'll never be able to know really what it is about, but just we strive for knowledge, for awareness. It's just and our lives are shaped by that. It's like the title of a song of Jimmy Heath that we were working on before he died. It's the song was called The Endless Search. And that's what it is. It's an endless search. So I try to communicate to my students the fun and the wonder and the amazement of this endless search that is music and life. It's being alive. Yeah.
boop. Stick the beady. Boo bee bee doo boo doo boo doo doo boo never the ball doo bee doo boo doo doo web. Biddy ball doo doo dip. Doo doo diddy doo. Shoot doo doo dip. Bid doo bee doo boo bee doo boo doo doo never the ball doo doo diddy oh. Hop doo 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 oh. Hop doo 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 doo. Sibby doo 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 bee up doo 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 doo. Bid and love doo bee doo 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 doo. Stop the baby. Baby do dee dee do 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 dip do the blue dip do bit they do that put it in the Dang do 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 gong. Shake it up. Clear. Clear. Boom 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 boom. Boom 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 boom. Clear. Clear. I gotta move on. Beep beep it up, dee dee up, but up, bit up, but illy over.
Oh yeah.
Oh wow, I haven't seen that in a while. My God, Roy Hargrove. Yeah, the world is not the same without him, right?
Well, you guys made some incredible music together. I know you toured with this big band, and Roy was a fantastic trumpet player.
Yeah, you know, I was honored to sing with this big band, and on some special projects like the one you played earlier with Johnny Griffin and Slide Hampton, and also he loved to play with the big band of the Dizzy Gillespie All Stars big band. So he would come play anytime he could. But of course, you know, Roy is I mean, his quintet was something that I had the fortune to listen to a lot of the concerts of the quintet, and it was like a live organism. I mean, it's like it was such an incredible environment for this genius Roy to express his musical ideas, his songs, his composition. I think that the impact of Roy Hargrove has not even, it's felt a lot, but it will grow exponentially, his influence on the music of the future, I think. I mean, 50 years from now, people are really more and more will keep working, examining the music of Roy Hargrove, working on him, listening to him, working to try to understand his philosophy, his vision, his sound, because this music is music of now, his music, but also for the future. And I know that he had a lot of projects, or new projects that he wanted to bring to fruition before he died. So he very much wanted to be creative and to live, and had still so much in him. It was really a tragedy.
Yeah, it really was a tragedy. You know, because we know him as a trumpet player. Perhaps this video introduced another side of him, and that's scat singing. Let's talk a little bit about scat singing. When students come to you who are vocalists and they say, "I want to learn how to scat. I want to do scat singing," what do you tell them?
The first thing is because a lot of people are in many ways, righteously so, concerned, I want to say concerned, but focused, let's say, on what to play. In other words, what notes, or a lot of people ask me what syllables, what phonemes, on the what. And I just tell them what I learned from the masters, that there's one thing that matters more than the what to play, is where to play it. In other words, it's the time, the rhythm, you know, the main important thing. So actually an education to the music of the masters. I don't even know if to calling it jazz, because you know, it's been so used for so much. Well, let's call it the music of the masters. You know, the music of Dizzy Gillespie, Charlie Parker, John Coltrane. So, if you want to look at what one of the main masters of this music and one of the most natural teachers of this music, Dizzy Gillespie, used to say, is the rhythm comes before the notes in your mind. So you have to be really, and music is a rhythmic language. The evolution of the music is really an evolution on the basis and with rhythm as its deep foundation. And for a simple reason, rhythm and syncopation, there's a particular specific way of syncopation, type of syncopation, that is typical only to the music of these masters, but that is part of a larger family. And this family is the family of the musics of the diaspora in English, the African diaspora. So the rhythm element is the focus, and it's the formant element of the music. You know, in European music, maybe it's other things. It's form, for example, but in jazz, it's syncopation, and it's one characteristical type of syncopation. And so the main thing is to get acquainted and to learn this rhythm vocabulary. That's what is needed for improvising. It's you need to learn a rhythmic vocabulary, and so then I can tell the students what to do about it, the things that Moody used to tell me to do. Or, for example, Clark Terry, I learned so much from Clark Terry in terms of rhythm, vocabulary, and pronunciation, because he would just call you up on stage and tell you, okay, now repeat this or answer to this. And it would always be something with a very strong rhythm content. And it would really make you understand how to pronounce and understand the feeling, because you have to, it's a physical feel of syncopation.
Absolutely.
Yeah, it's a long discourse, but it's just in a very natural way, a little bit superficial way maybe, but it's many layers to it.
Now let's talk for a second about you. Obviously, none of us have been very active in public in the past year. We've been sheltering, but you've got a couple projects that are percolating. One with Cyrus Chestnut, and one with an Australian pianist who's known for his work with Argentini. Excuse me, known for his work with Astor Piazzolla. Could you tell us about those things?
Yeah. Well, I am in the process of mixing a project that I had started before the pandemic. The pandemic kind of came down with a big cut on everything, and so everything gets suspended. But before, I was working on this project, and it's recording in duo with the great Cyrus Chestnut, great piano player. Talk about rhythm, and everything else. Moody used to call him the mesmerizer, because he's really a mesmerizing person. Moody had a little cute lisp, so he would say the mesmerizer. So I got the good fortune to make to record, and we have recorded now 14 tunes, I think, 13 or 14. But because a year has passed by, I'm thinking of maybe, if he wants to, maybe we can record some more, and who knows what comes out. I don't really do a lot of concept album projects. I just record the songs that I feel I am living in the moment, or just more I feel more connected to in the moment, and that can change. So that's why. And so maybe there'll be probably more songs, but definitely it's gonna be a duo. And I don't know when. It'll take a few months to put it out. And the other project is something that I completed in the studio right before the pandemic. And it's something very interesting that I worked on for a while, because it's slightly different type of project. It was very exciting and many ways challenging for me. So we're talking about a project led by a great musician and a fantastic composer by the name of Pablo Ziegler from Buenos Aires, Argentina. He is very famous for his tenure as a part of the quintet of Astor Piazzolla, the great creator of Nuevo Tango, fantastic genius, master of composition. I always loved the music of Piazzolla. And Pablo Ziegler was his piano player in this very tight, amazing quintet that was together for decades, up until Astor's death. But Pablo Ziegler is also a great composer in his own right, and also conductor and arranger. And he has a vision for uniting or bringing, Argentine tango with some elements also of other, like the murga, other types of Argentine music, and bringing it together with the sensibility that can be more attuned to jazz. So he didn't want to do an album of songs sung in tango by a tango singer, but he wanted to have this kind of encounter. And so we did it, and I have to say, I discovered the whole world, because his compositions are, guys, they're amazing. Like, you're gonna cry if you hear some of these melodies. I always insist on melody, maybe because that where I was born, melody is kind of in the DNA. I like big melodies. Like, I like in Italian, there's a term that says sfogato. No, like when you sing a melody, like, wow, the melody is wide. I really like that. And that's in the writing of, we said before, Jimmy Heath, and the writing of all my favorite composers, like Billy Strayhorn. There's that element of the big melody. And the same I found in the music of Pablo Ziegler. And so we recorded a full album of that. I don't know when it's going to be out yet. And I also have, I'm working on some more of his music, writing a little lyrics. Some I had already written. So, and also there's another project, in fact, this I don't know when. We have to wait until, we are all safe after the vaccines, after this horrible ordeal so we can be tranquil enough. But we had already started part of this project, and it's with the great Chucho Valdés. So we started a project with some boleros and some other, something also from the romantic Latin. Italy is a Latin culture, like, again, melody. And so from that perspective, melody and some boleros and a lot of other things we're putting together. And maybe for sure, once we're all going to be safe, we'll probably get together some more and do more of that. I would love to, because I've worked with Chucho Valdés for quite a while, and he taught me a lot of great Cuban boleros. But we also played Ennio Morricone together. But artists of that caliber, like Paquito de Rivera, there's no, their mind doesn't set boundaries, fences. They just play music. That's what fascinates me so much about many of these masters. Whether it's Brahms, Afro-Cuban, folk music, Broadway, Charlie Parker, it's music, and that's such an incredible quality that these two geniuses, both Paquito de Rivera and Chucho Valdés have. So those are also projects. I have a lot of projects, but I first want for us all, society and the world, to be safe. It's very important, and it's important to be safe and healthy to do art. Yeah. I just really think I would never put anybody at risk just for, because I want to play. Of course, I want to sing. I'm itching to it, but we must all feel safe. And I understand, in my opinion, we are all on a same ship that's now facing these troubled waters, and we're all going to get out of this together.
Yeah, it's been a rather rough voyage, but thankfully we have people like you and this music to brighten our spirits and heal us. And as we can tell from today's program, this is music that speaks to people all over the world. It spoke to you as a young woman in Italy, and that's a story that's repeated all over the world all the time. We have all these musicians coming to New York who want to be part of it. It's magic. Roberta, you are magic, and thank you so much for spending the past hour with us.
Thank you, Fred. Thank you so much, and thank you for all the great work you do not only for jazz, but for so many things, for humanity, for the arts, for everything. Thank you so much. Thank you. I really, really appreciate being here, and I thank you for calling me.
Thank you, Roberta, and we'll have to have you back again in a few months for you to give us an update and share some of your joy of this music and your experiences. We're going to go out with something from the Slide Hampton Johnny Griffin concert that we started with. So everyone, I'll echo Roberta's statement. Please stay safe and keep listening to jazz.
Ciao, ciao.
I got blues and I don't know how to lose it. I got blues and I wouldn't know what to do. Think about you, baby, let me take you in my arms and hold you. Just happy, I wouldn't know what to do. I love you so much I can't do without you. Late in at night and dream all about your wonderful lips and all of the ways drive me crazy. Just eat, work, I just can't do nothing. Dream about you morning, afternoon, and night. Up. This is the end of our set. We sure had fun up here. We pop up the way it do. Before we go, I'd like for you to put your hands together once more for this beautiful and trombone, 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 trombone. The great, the one and only, played with Dizzy, played with everybody. Slide Hampton, Slide Hampton, Slide Hampton. Wee wee wee, bit of bomb, bit of on tenor saxophone. He's beautiful, he's great. The soulful, the great, the swinging Johnny Griffin, Johnny Griffin, Johnny Griffin, Johnny. Shabba-woo-ba-ba-wee. All God's children got swing. This guy here's got a lot of it. My good friend, the lovely, great Roy Hargrove, Roy Hargrove, Roy Hargrove. We want you to know that we love you. Bye 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 bye. Bye 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 bye. Roy Hargrove, Eric Gunnison, Martin Wind, Willie Jones III.